What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvar, and alongside me, a very special guest joining me for this conversation, Cord Lalonde from PlayStation Generation. How the heck are you?
I'm good. I just got back from traveling from a galaxy far, far away, but
Ooh.
because I can't
How was
stop
the
thinking
leg
about
room?
not bad.
Yeah.
Not as bad as my back that I threw out yesterday. Oof,
Yeah.
spicy.
I've been there. Back troubles are never never fun. But
Yeah,
you know
as you
what
get
is
older, they get
fun?
worse.
You know what is fun? Hanging out and talking about video games. So that is exactly what we're going to be doing. As you noticed from the title, we're going to be giving our in progress impressions review of Star Wars Outlaws. We're going to do we did our darndest to get through this game. We could in terms of talking about this game. It is I'm very excited to talk about this game with you, Cord, as a fellow Star Wars fan. You also got your Nyx in the background for audio listeners. We got our little Nyxes, Nyxi. I don't really know what the plural of
I guess it was
Nyx
because it's
is,
an
but
X, just Nix.
yeah,
I
I
don't know how
think
you
so,
plural
right?
because it's already got an S in it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But before we get to all of that, this month we're giving away 5 tickets to the Canadian National Exhibition here in Toronto. We're also giving away an MSI Prestige 16 laptop Evo Edition powered by the Intel Core Ultra. We also have a grand prize of an Intel 14900K CPU. In case you did not know, Intel is returning to host the annual Intel Gaming Garage at the CNE. This is your chance to get a close look at some of the incredible desktops and gaming laptops powered by Intel's chips. And we want you, to get a chance to see it for yourself. By winning, you and a friend can go spend a day at the CNE, cruise through the Intel Gaming Garage, maybe even grab a deep fried Oreo on your way out. To enter, head on over to @ConsoleCreature on X or Instagram for more details on how to win each giveaway. And for those that aren't even located in the GTA, you still can win the i9 or the MSI laptop as well. Big thanks to Intel for providing prizes. We'll be at the Gaming Garage. I already went and attended. It's a really good vibe over there. They expanded a lot from last year, so it's really cool to see. But yeah. Thank you for Intel. But let's get into it, Court. Let's talk about Star Wars Outlaws. Top level so far. I just want to know what platform you're playing it on, how many hours estimated you're in, and just kind of broad strokes. How are you feeling about this game so far?
So I'm playing on the PlayStation 5.
Mhm.
DualSense functionality right off the bat. Highly recommend it. I think they did a phenomenal job of integrating the
Cool.
DualSense. A lot of games don't do it. I think Star
Mhm.
Wars Outlaws has done a great job, especially with the puzzles,
Okay.
the data breaches, and so on and so forth. They've
Mm.
integrated the DualSense. Very cool. Especially with the data links with the sound. So the DualSense actually will vibrate whether you got it wrong, but it'll also give you the beat to get it right.
Yep.
So I would think for accessibility reasons, that's phenomenal because someone that needs that, they can actually just do it based on the feel in the controller.
Mhm.
I said to you before, I think this is just like any type of TV series that you need to get into before you love it. So my first, I would say 2 hours of the game, I felt it to be sluggish. I felt it needed to get there. I felt the combat was a little sluggish. I felt disjointed, but I really enjoyed the story. As I've gotten just over 12 hours into this game, which is for me, it's spoiler alert, we only got the code not too long ago, so we've all been playing it as quickly as humanly possible. Um, I'm loving this game.
That's
So I
amazing.
went from not really enjoying the game to
Mhm.
straight up loving this game, and all I want to do is play said game. I said to you before, my daughter, who also loves this game right now, she loves the female protagonist and she loves Nyx. This Nyx that you see behind me, it's hers. It's never going to be mine. She loves the little thing. And I'll say this: Nyx is the greatest companion I've ever had in a video game for
Wow.
functionality, and he's cute as heck. But functionality wise, they did a great job.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, so for me, I'm playing on Xbox. I do see some of those, not dual sense integrations, but some of the haptic feedback in the rumble, and some of those games and stuff like that. So I'm glad those carry over, but I would be interested to replay it on PlayStation to kind of see the breadth of those. Um, for me, I'm roughly around the same stage of progression. I just looked it up in the Xbox app. I'm at 14 hours, so we're neck and neck. I love that. Um, and as for me, I don't know if I love this game. To me, I think this is a good game, a great Star Wars game, though. And I think for everything it does right, I think it does things phenomenally just to pay homage to Star Wars, to feel like it should be existing within the Star Wars canon. It's all about the ambiance, the set dressing, the way that even like some scenes transition, like they do like the wipe, like everything is so authentically Star Wars that you have to commend Ubisoft Massive and Ubisoft Toronto and all of the supporting studios for doing their homework, knowing the lore, crafting a story that feels like this should be taking place in between Empire and Return of the Jedi, a beloved era of Star Wars. So for that, I say kudos to them. From a gameplay perspective, I almost so far, and this could obviously change or kind of waver. I don't really know when I roll credits, but right now I feel like this is the Assassin's Creed 1 to what could be a very great Assassin's Creed 2, in that there are great building blocks here. There's great systems and stuff like that. I just don't know if they're all fleshed out enough for me to actually care about so far. But for what's there, I think it's a lot of fun. And for people who have been keeping up with my journey with this game, whether or not they heard my impressions when I came back from SGF or I did the 3-hour demo, my journey on this has been like ebbs and flows because I really didn't really understand what this game was. When I first played this, I thought this was supposed to be an action game with stealth. And that kind of carried over with my 3-hour demo where I was like, I just am not enjoying the stealth portions. Seeing the full context here, I had it all backwards. And I'm willing to admit that I was totally wrong in that this game is an open world stealth game with action portions. And for that contextual switch in my brain, I'm actually enjoying the stealth now more because it is I'm able to kind of quantify the reasons why I'm supposed to be going through a mission, be as stealthy and silent as possible, but when things pop off, that's when the action kicks in versus always feeling like I was being congested into these stealth corners when all I wanted to do was be Kay Vess, blasting like an old Western character and stuff like a cowboy. And I was like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to fully understand what the tone and the genre of this game really is.
It's very much like a Star Wars movie. So I'll put the caveat on here. I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Mm.
So I think a lot of me turning into loving this is because I truly think the story has been done phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a story we haven't heard before. It is a character we haven't dealt with, but it's still a world that we have. What one of it's interesting right off the very start. Canto Bight, when it's, pictured in the movies, is very bright, colorful, and it's this shiny star. But in this game, it is this dark underworld that we get to actually see. You actually don't get to see what we see in the movies until, like, you're actually almost leaving,
Yeah.
and you get to actually look towards when Kay looks towards, and I was like, "Oh my god." Like, it just I think they did a very good job, and when you bring up the stealth, it's a very good point because, it's a part of my issue that I had with the combat. So that my a lot of my issues that I have, some of the game, is the stealth. I found the stealth just to be not stealth. And for
Mhm.
me, I'm like, well, this is a Ubisoft game. I actually, as I've played the game more, I appreciate Ubisoft saying it's not an Assassin's Creed Star Wars game. Because I think if they made the stealth more like an Assassin's Creed game where, like, if you took down an enemy, they don't hear it, it would just be an Assassin's Creed Star Wars game. So
Right.
I have now come to the point of respecting that, and it's interesting you bring up how it works. It's a stealth action game. I almost think it's really just like a Star Wars movie. Like for a perfect example, in in the Star Wars lore, when they go into the Death Star, they're being stealthy, but when they finally get spotted, all of a sudden the action breaks out. It's literally
Mhm.
like a Star Wars movie. They did a very
Sure.
good job of that because, like, a perfect example, there's a mission where we're on an Imperial starship and we have to be stealth. And they keep telling you don't let the alarms go off because if the
Yep.
alarms go off, it's over. And I appreciate the alarm noise. Wow, well done. the sound effects that they put in there, they did the sound team over at Ubisoft Toronto. You guys did a phenomenal job, or was it Montreal that did the sound? I can't remember, but they did a phenomenal job. And as soon as there's parts where no matter what, you're gonna get spotted. And then all of a sudden the action kicks in. I still feel that some of the action sequences bother me just a tiny smidge. And maybe it's because I am a fan of Massive.
Mhm.
So I'm a huge Division 1, Division 2. I love their games. I love their cover shooter. And I felt a lot when you brought up, like, this is the Assassin's Creed 1. Like, I think that they can improve upon the cover shooting and
Right.
maybe put it in more. Like, we can cover, but the cover shooting isn't really a mechanic. It's just we can hide behind cover and we can come up and shoot. I don't think it's as seamless as, say, like in a Division 2.
Yeah.
I think they could actually add that possibly to if they make another one, add that to the next game, and I think it would
Mhm.
elevate the combat, because I found that to be a little bit frustrating that I'm hiding behind something, but I get up and I'm getting shot very easily. And spoiler alert, your health is very easily, readily available, and like
Mhm.
you can you don't really die much. I'm playing on easy, but I turn it up a notch. You don't die much. But I just felt those core mechanics of the cover shooting that they put in the game, I think it's something that they can definitely improve upon, and I appreciate now, but at first was a frustration about the stealth. I was
Yeah.
very frustrated with that at first, but now I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 me too. And I think that's just kind of part of the journey and kind of part of the understanding of how they're laying it all out, like all the systems out, like using Nyx as a tool during those stealth portions and the ebbs and flows of it all. And as soon as you start upgrading your arsenal, your blaster and stuff like that, I think it becomes a little easier, a little more intuitive. But at first blush, like getting up to that Imperial section that you're talking about, where they had the autofail mission and or the autofail system and stuff like that, I think that's the most frustrating part. And then I think for almost like an intentional way of doing it too is that it's forcing you to kind of understand, no, you have to be stealthy here. You have to just kind of force your way through, beat it over everyone's head, the player's head, of like, this is how the stealth portions are being laid out to better assist you as you go on. Because I it's interesting, and we'll kind of talk about like the varying directions that you can kind of navigate this game. I'm very interested to see like how you kind of went
Who am I
about it.
siding with?
Well, that too, but it kind of opens up in terms of like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I think after that Imperial ship mission, there isn't really that much of a inherent focus on this entire mission is going to be just pure stealth. I think I have like one other one so far. So I'm curious to know by the end, by the time I roll credits, if that's even a large portion of the game or if it's just these kind of curated sections. But I want to kind of go back to the story and kind of just the characterization of Kay Vess and Nyx and that relationship. As both of us being big Star Wars fans, I was pleasantly surprised seeing how it kind of starts. You're Kay Vess, you're the scoundrel, kind of a Han Solo type character who grew up in the workers' district, like you said, of Canto Bight. And for me, that was a very interesting perspective to like, to get players in, is that we're seeing this location. I mean, a very divisive location, depending on if you like The Last Jedi or not, and you're seeing it from a different perspective in a different era as well. We're seeing it way before we see it in The Last Jedi, and we're getting to know, yeah, up there, up in the mountains and everything. That's where the rich people go. That's where the one percenters are. They're gambling and everything. And here you are. You have like Kay Vess, her, everyone she knows working in like the trenches almost. And it's a very interesting concept of she's been, a heister, of this under this person working within the underbelly who it aspires to get out and just nail one job and just get enough money to just leave this world behind. And I think that's a very interesting concept for a character. I want to kind of know what your takeaways were for Kay, for her relationship with Nyx, and kind of how the way the game kind of sets all that out.
Well, I know I alluded to it earlier. I was blown away by the contrast between Canto Bight in the films and
Mm,
Canto Bight in the game.
yep.
I was also blown away with how they didn't Kay is not on anybody's side.
Nope.
she is only on her side. She's not a good guy, she's not a bad guy. She's technically like, yes, she's Han Solo, but she hasn't got to that point when Han Solo was convinced.
Right.
And maybe that happens later on in the game. I'm not there yet, but she, as of right now, for me, she's looking out for herself. She has, there is a wanted. She is there's a death warrant out for her pretty much.
Mhm.
But at the same time, she's actually confused on why it's this way.
Yeah.
She is actually trying to do the right thing. And they're going to give you choices along the way that you can make. I'm curious to know who you're siding with. It was kind of like the question of the last couple of days. I know that has been playing this game, who they're siding with. I think they've done a good job, and they've done a good enough job that I said to you before, I was playing with my daughter, and she really is liking Kay as a
Mhm.
character, and I am too. It's interesting. We've had Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and so on and so forth, where we've been introduced to characters in these video games that we didn't know if we wanted them part of the canon.
Yep.
And the TV shows, I don't think, have done as good a job as the video games have of bringing new characters and making them canon. The TV shows that have succeeded so far on Disney Plus are the ones that have brought us characters we already knew.
Sure.
Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, those at Mandalorian, we knew about the Mandalorian, so but Kay is an all new character, and I'd almost say everybody's going to be like, she's Han Solo, but I don't think she is, because I don't think she's as dishonest as Han Solo. Han
No.
Solo is probably one of the most selfish characters in all of Star Wars lore until later on, but Kay right off the bat is so selfless. Like we talk about Nyx. Nyx is what she cares about more than anything else. Like, she loves that little
Oh, yeah.
dude. And
Yep.
it's interesting as they give you, and I don't know if you've had this happen, there's vendors that try and buy Nyx to cook them.
I
And
have not seen this,
yeah,
no.
so while you're walking through any of the vendors or any of the characters, you're gonna notice that random ones out of nowhere actually have a bubble to go talk to them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I play Ubisoft games a little differently. So yes, I am 12 hours into this game, but I clear the map.
Mm.
Like, I have done everything I possibly can and upgraded, which I love the upgrading system. Um, I've upgraded Kay and Nyx and my speeder and my spaceship as much as I humanly possibly can. Then I leave and do the mission.
Mhm.
So I appreciate the relationship between Nyx and Kay, and I've said this before, the integration that they've done with Nyx and how you can use him in the game
Yep.
is phenomenal, because he's got so many layers. He is helping you with your stealth. He helps you when you go into a Pike or a Crimson Dawn area, you can't take things, because if someone sees you, then you lose favor with them.
Yep.
But if you get Nyx to go get it, you're fine as long as they don't see Nyx, and they can see Nyx. So you
Okay.
actually can have Nyx go pick it up. And in the PlayStation, it's the L1 button.
Mhm.
The little thing will come across, and Nyx will go grab it and bring it to you. As long as you're hidden, I've learned this. As long as you are hidden from anybody on the screen, you can take it, and then it's fine.
Interesting. Yeah, because had been wondering that, because I know by trial and error, I have been losing reputation with certain syndicates because I've been stealing myself, and then I was like, "Am I just making this up? Is it the fact that if I've sent Nyx out and they don't see him, it just doesn't affect the system?" And I
It
thought it
doesn't.
was just like gaslighting myself to believe this, but that's interesting that you've also experienced that.
Yeah, so I learned you have to be hidden though. So
Got
like,
it.
I'll hide and crouch behind something,
Yep.
send Nyx to go get it far off, and then he comes all the way back. And by the time he gets back, the yellow anytime I see a question mark or a character like it only came from Metal Gear. Without Metal Gear, we never would
I
have any of
know.
these systems. So I always like have that Metal Gear Solid noise in my head. But yes, I've learned that Nyx can steal anything. And I actually love the way he distracts and like falls over and plays dead
Oh
and
my
makes
god,
that
it's
little
so
noise.
adorable.
It
Yep.
hasn't got annoying in 12 hours into the game.
Nope.
So well done, Ubisoft. Because it's a lot of times you introduce a character such as this in the Star Wars lore, AK Jar Jar Binks, they become extremely annoying.
Yeah, there's you definitely run that risk of introducing a character that has so much personality to him and is not only the center of like the cuteness, the toyness of look, we're sitting next to, our plush Nyx's, but also you're putting so much emphasis on him being, or it being a character or this vessel of humor as well. And you kind of run that risk of, okay, am I just going to get annoyed by this? But similar to kind of like BB-8, I love Nyx. I think it's a great addition to the cast. I think the way that Kay and Nyx kind of play off each other, there's so much life in person. One of my favorite things, and I highly recommend everyone do this when they start playing, is when you're on your speeder and you're blasting through the open world and everything, just go into photo mode and just zoom in on Nyx's face, because he is having the time of his life.
Oh,
Like,
really?
it's so much genuine, authentic. Like, it's some of the subtleties of, he'll just be like smiling, like just like having the time of his life, or he'll just at times just be like looking up at Kay and like enamored by her, and it's just,
Yeah, there's a huge friendship,
yeah,
and kudos to Ubisoft for going against the grain.
mhm,
They have a female protagonist, and the companion is not a droid.
right, yep,
Like, I was I thought at first, I'm like, "Wow, they're really going in a different direction," but as you play the game, you're like, "They did it," because I think it's almost a crutch in the Star Wars universe to be like, "Alright, your companion's a droid." It's just easy. Like, I know Han Solo's companion is Chewie,
right.
but Chewie is his own character in itself. Yes, Nyx is more of a companion than a Chewie. Chewie is like a main character. I find Nyx to be a companion, but he's not a droid. And they could have easily just given Kay a droid, but instead they went with a character that you're going to care about. Like, if a droid gets killed or anything happens to her, you're like, all right, you can fix it. You can't fix Nyx.
That's so true. That's true. Although they do introduce a great robot
Yeah,
in Star
yeah,
Wars. ND5 is great. He has like some of the driest humor. Um I really like that character a lot, but he's not, no, he's not with you.
yeah,
He's just kind of a voice in on your cons and stuff like that. But I love that character as well. I just want to throw that out there.
yeah. But I do find, and I can't. This is so sad. I can't even remember his name. You do have another companion that he kind of is an afterthought. He helps you. He fixes your ship and
Yep.
so on
Yeah,
and so.
yeah.
I can't even remember his
Waka.
name. Sorry,
Waka.
Waka. That's it.
Yeah.
He's he's
He's
just
not
an
ND5, I'll say that. He's not
yeah, they I
yeah,
almost they could have made him the droid,
sure.
and it probably would have worked better.
Yeah.
Because he actually is a little bit of annoying when he's like, "Oh, you could do this instead because I don't trust this." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not listening to you. I've already picked the direction of who I'm siding with. Like,
Right.
just you're not Jiminy Cricket. We're good. You don't need to be on my shoulder."
Not Jiminy Cricket. Yeah. Um, I'm curious to know that we've kind of talked about it, but this reputation system that they introduce into this game, because yeah, it is dealing largely with the criminal underworld of Star Wars, something that we've always wanted to see since Star Wars 1313. God rest your soul. And in this game, it kind of lays out, yeah, there's four crime syndicates that kind of take over the, or have reign over the Outer Rim, and that's the Ashiga clan, the Hutt cartel, the Crimson Dawn, and then the Pikes. And in this system, you can kind of align yourself by doing jobs, and doing jobs in their favor along the way, and you gain reputation with them to, and it's a varying scale. If you do good things, the scale goes up and you gain access to some of their compounds. Vendors will give you better items and better rates and stuff like that. And I don't know if I'm missing anything else. Oh, and they'll
It's also on the
sometimes give
map.
you
You're able to go
prizes.
through their areas
Yeah.
because there are missions where we're gonna have to go through their areas,
Mhm.
and if you have better favor with them, it makes the mission easier.
For sure, absolutely, yes, and what happens is then, to get better favor with a specific one, say like the Pikes, oftentimes you will have to then betray another one. There'll come a time when it's like, okay, who do you hand this intel to? Do you go for the Pikes to get a better favor or better reward from them, to betray the Crimson Dawn, in which case that scale goes down, and as that scale goes down, yeah, you get
So
locked out
that
of
does happen.
specific
So
areas. Yeah.
if the Crimson Dawn would figure out that
Mhm.
say we're at the Imperial base and we're leaving it. I've
Yep.
already done it, but if I would have chose one way, the other one would know?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Alright.
Yeah. And yeah, it's this whole, kind of tic-tac-toe of it all, of like, okay, who do I want to align myself with at this very specific time? And how do I want to go about this? I'm really interested to hear your experiences with the system. If you're aligning yourself with a specific syndicate for story reasons, or if you're aligning yourself just because they're cool and you're kind of vibing with them? What's your how do you like the system overall so far?
I find the system to be extremely sensitive. Like the
Hmm.
littlest thing can set it off and change and lose almost all your favor with them, which is a tad bit frustrating.
Okay.
There was a spoiler alert. I'm aligning with the Crimson Dawn because the Pike they're terrible. They are terrible in the movies. They're always the backstabbers. So I'm like, I'm not. Maybe it's in my brain. I'm just like, I can't align with you
Sure.
because they're literally throughout Star Wars movies and any of the lore. The Pikes suck. So I've decided I am not aligning with them at all.
Hmm.
Plus, I've looked at their vendors. Their vendors don't have as much as compared to the Crimson Dawn. So I'm hoping this works out in my favor. Maybe it doesn't. It does. So far, it has because a lot of to the people listening, a lot of the earlier missions involve the Crimson Dawn. So if you have favor with them, it's easier to do said missions.
Yep.
So as of right now, I guess that's working out to the story for me. I'm aligning with the Crimson Dawn. And it's been okay, except for the fact that you can lose favor so easily. Like, and it's in huge chunks. So maybe it's a tuner they've got to go with. But I was doing a mission where I was trying to get something from the Crimson Dawn in their vault, and that was just part of the main story mission. And I got
Hmm.
spotted by one guy. And
Yep.
I'm like, well, there's nothing else I can do except blast my way out. I tried to convince them through conversation, but that's only getting one out of the three guys that are there. There's not much I can do. And
Oh yeah.
that's my issue with the combat and the stealth system integration. I think they can do better. But automatically I lost all my favor and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So then I've got to go find a mission where I can go get the favor back, which is a tad bit frustrating. So I think they need to possibly fine tune it, and maybe the risk versus reward shouldn't be so drastic. And
Hmm.
also, you should be able to do things and side with either one of them without them knowing. There should be ones where they let you know, like no matter what, they're going to know. But there should be ones, as especially in this world, where there's what do they have a camera on you when you're doing this? Like, you know what I mean?
I know.
So I found that a bit frustrating.
Yeah. To me, this is the emphatic reason why I think that there's great building blocks here, but they need to refine it, tighten it up, actually give it meaning and purpose for like a better sequel here. I think from a very top level, it's a great idea. I love playing into the criminal underbelly of Star Wars. I think it's always been a fascinating kind of area outside of the Jedi and stuff like that. Examining the Crimson Dawn and the Pikes. We've heard these names, we've seen them in movies and shows before. It's very interesting. Here, I think it's all just kind of set dressy. I think it's all kind of just a dangling mechanic of, oh no, don't diminish your relationship with this. Otherwise, and it's like when you get to otherwise, it's okay, there's nothing. The story still continues the same. Everything you're just kind of hampering your experience of walking into a compound. In which case, yeah, like you said, you just do some other missions down the road, get better favor with them, and then you can just go into that compound anyways. It feels like it's almost like a half-assed system, and I wish there was more of a emphasis on the choice and the impact of it. And if you did align yourself with the Crimson Dawn to such an extent that the Pikes would just never work with you. And I kind of love that agency of, hey, this is your gameplay, you or your playthrough. You have to deal with that consequence of now Jabba the Hutt hates you and wants to kill you because you've screwed him over so many times. The way I've been doing it, and I know this is such a achievement brain stupid way of going about it, is that every planet I'm on, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to max out one bar, pop the achievement, and then I'm done with them. And that's exactly what I've done with the Ashiga clan, the Pikes, and now I'm doing it with the Hutts on Tatooine. And that, because it really doesn't matter to the story and the overall journey that Kay is going on, is that and it's almost like to a frustrating degree in that on the second planet I went to, Kijimi, which is also a sequel planet, where we're introduced to the Ashiga clan and everything like that, and they have a very withstanding conflict with the Crimson Dawn. And the whole time I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go Ashiga clan. I'm maxing out this bar, and then once I get to another planet, I'll go with Crimson Dawn and do that. But at the same time, they're delivering a story that is the focal point is the Crimson Dawn, and Kay still manages to have a relationship with the Crimson Dawn, even though I'm actively going out of my way to just like middle fingers up, like I'm not aligning myself with you at all. And then the next cutscene, she's just at a bar talking to someone from the Crimson Dawn. I was like, this isn't aligning with my canon of what's going on right now. This feels very jarring. So I feel like it's a great system. I think it's a cool idea in a way to examine all these different figures and crime syndicates, but it's just super surface level in my opinion. In that it's just a gameplay system. It's not carrying me through the narrative. It's not changing the story in any meaningful way. In a way that I think a lot of RPGs, like open world RPGs would, in having that it's almost like the Mass Effect thing where it's like if you have that sliding scale, if you're an asshole for long enough, hey, people are not going to align with you. You're going to close yourself off from opportunities or dialogues trees and stuff like that. And I kind of wish that that was the case here.
Yeah, and I'm interested to know because you're saying that you're maxing it out, and
Mhm.
I haven't been able to max it out yet, and
Okay.
maybe which is interesting because I've tried to, and I don't think there's enough. Like I wonder if you get more points because I'm guessing at the beginning you align with the Pikes. I wonder if
Mhm.
you go against the story, are you getting more favor? Like if I'm
It
just doing what the Crimson Dawn want me to do, which is what I've been doing so far, I'm not getting it's like the favor bar doesn't move that much.
Interesting. So for me, when I was on Tashara, which is the first planet that
Yep.
you're forced onto and everything like that,
Because your ship doesn't
the
work and teaches you upgrades.
exactly. Every single mission, core mission that I was doing, I just aligned myself with the Pikes, and by the time the narrative was like, "All right, you're leaving now," I had to max out. It was super
Yeah,
easy,
I've
and
left and it didn't.
interesting. So I
Yeah.
wonder what could have affected that, but
I
it
had
was
the
the
one
same with
time,
the
that one mission where I had to go into where the Crimson but see, you were aligning with the Pikes, so you're getting
yep,
favor no matter what.
yep. I
So
was just
that's maybe what it is, that little bit of a mishap,
yep.
and I wanted to touch because 'cause we're talking about it, you said
Mhm.
achievements, and I wanna talk about trophies.
Sure.
There isn't as much popping as I would like, and second, the how they look are terrible. The graphic on a PlayStation, it's just like a neon light of like a speeder or like
Oh, I see what you're saying. The
they're
the
not
symbol.
very it's interesting because I like achievements and trophies, and I
Same.
thought, 1, there's no tracking on it, which is frustrating for PlayStation, which there usually is. Maybe
Interesting.
that gets patched in. I will say this, it got patched in after the fact on Assassin's Creed Mirage after
Mm,
launch, so it could be just right now. I noticed after launch when I was playing Assassin's Creed Mirage, a lot of the trophies started giving me a percentage of what I've done so far. So far, there is no percentages going up and down,
huh,
and I feel they're not pop like, it's interesting. I'm 12 hours in, I think I've only popped 6 of them, like
interesting.
and I don't like the look of them, like, they do not look that great.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've gotten a considerable amount on Xbox. There is tracking.
There has to be, right? That's a
Not all of them. So some games don't have frustrating. I know this is a very niche and specific thing to
we
to
all
talk about,
do
but
it.
no, yeah, I just
I
love
just
the
as soon as you
the
brought it up, I'm like, "Oh,
achievement.
I wanted to get your take on it." But yeah,
Yeah,
there's no percentage
interesting.
for
Okay,
anything. I'm even going on the app just to double check.
yeah,
Nothing.
hmm, weird. Um, What we're talking? Oh, the reputation system. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I just wish there was a little bit more there. But again, I think this is a system that if we do get a sequel, if something else comes out of this property, that's something that they can tighten up, kind of give more to. But
Okay, and I wanted to one touch
yeah,
on Kay. I think Kay could be her own like, Disney Plus is looking for a TV show. This is a TV show. This could be one.
sure.
She's
Yeah,
interesting
I
enough,
I, I think she could
and the world she's in is interesting enough that they could go on a different angle with it. It could be the solo movie that we
very
wanted.
yeah. Very much so, very much so. I want to talk about the open world and kind of the exploration of this game
Yep.
as well. There is an emphasis on there being an open world in the game so far. The game lays out 4 different planets to go through. Tashara kind of serves as the tutorial of it all. Of like here, you're kind of forced onto this planet, go through all the systems here before you get on your ship and then kind of blast off. In which case, the game then opens up 3 other planets that you can go to, with a slight nudge to one of them, the game kind of just says, okay, maybe you should go over here, but you can
No, it's
go to
it's
any of
Jiminy
them.
Cricket. He doesn't shut up. He just doesn't
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. Uh, so I want to know so far, where have you been going? How have you been kind of like going through exploring? Because I know that you were saying that you kind of try and do everything that's available to you throughout the game. What's your experience like navigating this open world environment?
I think the map is very intuitive. I
Mm,
think Ubisoft has probably perfected maps by now. I think they're better. If anybody's played Starfield, this works. The
yeah,
spaceship, everything works. They've it's interesting because it's Starfield is the only spaceship star game that I've played before this. And I think the Bethesda people should just go play this and be like, this is how a map should work. This is how a spaceship should fly, and so on and so forth. And the
that's so
travel should work.
interesting because I really think that Starfield ship like ship play and Outlaws is kind of like one to one. I'm having like I think that both of them kind of nailed not being disoriented or distracted when you're actively like going after
I think they've done a
enemy
good job.
ships.
I think it's more concise.
Okay.
And I think even when we go into a planet, I think they did a better job. But I find the open world map to be very easily accessible,
Hmm.
very easily to navigate.
Hmm.
It looks big, but it really isn't. And I think they've done a good job of like, you really can't go very far without finding a question mark or
Yep.
finding something to interact with. Um, I'm only on the second planet, and I played just as much as you have played, and because that I'm clearing the map. You're almost able
Got
to, on the very first planet, get everything. There are a couple things. There's probably like 3 things I can't do because I need specific abilities,
yep.
and I'll have to come back. But other than that, I've been able to almost clear the whole map,
Okay.
which I wanted to do, especially for the upgrade system. The way the upgrade system works is you need to do specific tasks plus get some elements or materials that you're going to need, but you still need to do specific tasks. So I was able on the first planet, there's 3 people that you have to meet up with and do a mission for first to unlock their skill tree. And that's kind of how it works. So there are 3 people you have to meet on the first planet. If you don't go do those missions and you go to the next planet, you can't unlock that skill tree that
Right.
progresses your character. That was happenstance and stumbled upon. When we get these games early, I'll say to everybody, there's no review or anybody we can look up to see what's going on in this game. We just have to like figure it out. So
Yep.
I noticed when I went into the skill tree, I'm like, hold on, because they do also do a good job of when you go in there, they tell you where on the map to go. If you
Yeah.
want to get these things, they're like, here's an area where you could probably go do all this. So I think they took kind of the mechanics from their Far Cry games in the past, where they're like, you need this many pelts and do all these things to unlock this. They put that into the Star Wars game, and I'm okay with it because I find it gives me more reason to explore the world.
Yes. No, I agree. I really like the way that the ability system's laid out of, hey, if you want better gunplay abilities, you got to find the gun expert. If you want more like better barter, you got to find this person. I think that's very interesting, and it also aligns itself in a way that it organically makes sense. It organically introduces like a narrative behind it as well, which I think is very cool. You're talking about going through the open worlds and finding the question marks and the intel and everything. Everything is so specifically tied to narrative in this game that it doesn't feel like we're playing the same game of Ubisoft bloat and there's an icon on the map for the sake of an icon. No, it's like there are reasons why you're going out to look at this little area on Tashara. It holds a treasure in there, but there's an active reason. Whether or not you really care about what the reason is, that's a whole different story. It's very minor, but at least they try to do a good job of putting you out there, making sure that it's at least meaningful and it's not Valhalla where it's like, hey, here's a massive map full of question marks and things to do. Why? Because we want you to exist in this world longer. At least they're trying to put in the effort of, if this is going to be a Ubisoft game and it's going to be side quests and little minor things to do, it's all going to go back to Kay doing like Kay on her journey, and for that I appreciate. For me, I haven't really been doing a lot of the side stuff, the collectibles and stuff like that, only because one of the first ones I went to was one of the ones where it was like, oh, you need a specific tool, come back, and I was like, I'm not doing this. It's kind of that Metroidvania mind I have, where it's like, okay, if I need a specific tool, I'm going to max out my journey this way and then come back and go this varying way and unlock everything with the new abilities and stuff like that. But
Which
otherwise,
I feel you kind of almost did yourself for a Star Wars fan.
yeah.
You kind of, I'll say this for Star Wars fans, do not pass a data pad on this game
Oh,
without
right.
clicking on it. Those data pads, they did it. There's a lot of games where they make us like read stuff. The
Hmm.
Last of Us, where it's cool, but they're pretty much just Easter eggs for other games. The
Yep.
data pads in this, one, are lore in the Star Wars world, and two, progress mini missions and give you more missions.
Yep.
And also unlock, like, if you're looking for the treasures, because there's treasures all over the place, which are very cool, and how to get them are
Hmm.
very cool. The data pad will be like, here's a hint on to get this, or here's a hint how to get an upgrade that you didn't even know. So
Right.
that's what I did find about the map, how it's not big, but it's big. Every single question mark is almost like it's either you're getting information to go find this thing, or you're getting a mini mission,
Hmm.
or it is a mission that you didn't even know existed, because there's always a character to go talk to. You can also, I'll suggest to people, there's areas where you can lean on bars or lean on walls and such.
Yep.
Do it, because the conversation that you hear will progress the story and will also give you missions or tell you where to go get things. They did a
Yep.
very good job, as you mentioned. They made every question mark meaningful. It's not a waste of your time to go clear out the map. I didn't feel like, and as someone who is put over 300 hours into Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I think about 150 of my hours in Valhalla is just getting from one side of the map to go find out it's just a treasure chest and be like, or a piece of gear that I don't need.
Exactly.
And I,
Everything in Outlaws feels like, okay, like what you're saying. If you lean on a bar, you're listening to these people talk about. They're like, oh, have you heard? Like, they're the people that went out to this outpost way in the desert. They never came back. All of a sudden, that intel icon goes up in that location. You go out there. Yep. Lo and behold, there's a treasure chest there. And what it will be is that, yeah, it could be a cosmetic thing for Kay. You get a new, vest or new pants or something. But oftentimes it's no, this is a core component to upgrade your blaster. This is a core component to upgrade your ship and stuff like that. So I think that the treasure system and collectibles are a lot more meaningful in this game. It's not, hey, you're just going to go out here and get a data pad and find an Easter egg or something like that. A lot of it is meaningful, and I feel like this is a game when I wrap up the story is going to be, let's go back to these planets, collect everything, make sure I would get the 100% because I am actively interested to see what's out there in these open worlds.
yeah, I'm very interested to see if there's a way to go back and do the favor missions, the side missions, so that I can change the favor so I can get the platinum in this game.
I don't see why there's not. I've never been blocked. Again, going back to my gripes about the reputation system, no matter what I've done, I've never been blocked out of doing something. And I think that may work in the favor of people like, you or I who are trying to
Yeah,
actively
like I hate
get.
the pikes, man. It's just a hate.
Yeah, so maybe at the end when it really doesn't matter at all, you can go back and be like, "Well, sorry guys, I'm back, hat in hand. I'll warm up and cozy
Yeah,
up for
and
you guys."
like even I would suggest to the people playing this, like before you if you're gonna play it for the first time, there is a instance to upgrade your speeder. So go into to there. If you don't do that mission, which is not a main story mission, your speeder won't have that ability, I would
Mm,
think, for the rest of the game.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
but
that's
no,
why I would say you go back unless they give you another chance to do it on another planet.
no, you have to. You have to do
Okay.
that mission because there is a point where, yeah, you need that kind of like boost to get you through part of the map to progress the main mission. Now I just
The
remembered.
boost is
Yeah.
almost pointless, but yes.
And
The boost feels like lackluster to me. It's
it's
just
not very boosty, I will
no, it
agree.
is not very
No.
boosty at all. There's also a side mission which I felt like the reward should have been more planet wise on the very first planet. Kudos to you for remembering these planet names. Not a chance. I just don't have enough memory capacity to do that nowadays. But there is a mission where you do something where it's like changes the planet on the very first planet, and it's a side mission. It's not a mission.
Huh.
So there's a side mission where you do something where it changes the whole, literally the atmosphere of the planet.
What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm telling you, like I made sure I did everything on the
That's
planet,
so cool,
and
okay.
there was no like the people don't like, hey, way to go. Yet for some reason, because they don't know you did it, but for some reason the Pikes or the Crimson Dawn, they'll know seconds
They're
when
always
you're doing
looking.
something on an Imperial starship
Yeah.
that there's no way they could know that they know you did it.
They're like, "Oh, that's scrap that you put in your pocket? Sorry."
Exactly. So it was very interesting that you do something, and it doesn't really change much. And I will also say this: there is a day and night cycle, but it doesn't add anything to the game. But we'll get into graphics and the
Wh
lack of it.
why don't we? Why don't we
Yes.
talk about graphics, performance? For me, that very first cutscene, playing on Xbox, Series X was daunting because I thought we were in trouble because, it's a cinematic cutscene, and the first time were actively seeing this game completed, there's screen tearing the entire time, and I'm like, "Oh, no." Anytime a character's moving, like, actively moving in the scene, I was like, "Oh, no. We're in a bad situation." Thankfully, after that cutscene, I haven't experienced screen tears, and then I am playing on the performance mode, so I'm
Same.
trying to get the as close to 60 frames per second. I think at most times I'm hitting it. I wouldn't say it's a solid, like a
I don't
stable
think we are. I
60.
think it's very rare. I'm gonna be
It's
honest.
it fluctuates certainly, but I will say on Series X specifically, I feel like I'm hitting it more times than I had been, like, it's noticeable that it is more fluid, but, what about you? How's the experience been looking at this game and seeing the performance?
So I find, oddly enough, I'm hitting 60 frames per second. I would think more when I'm doing traversal and the speeder, when you would think that
Yep.
that's where it chugs, and it doesn't. It chugs
Mhm.
a lot when there's multiple characters on the screen, like when
Like
you're in a
cinematics, you mean?
yeah. I
Okay.
only find the chugging on cinematics. I didn't have the screen tear that you had, but as I was saying to you, I had the fuzzies. Every
Yep.
character's hair was very fuzzy in that first little bit. I just had the screen tear after a mission on a cutscene.
Oh, interesting,
And
okay.
so I'm playing in full screen mode. You can either play in cinematic, which is
Yep.
the letterbox, or you
Mhm.
can play in full screen. I don't know what it is. I tried letterbox. It was driving me insane and I couldn't do it. Maybe it's the video game in me. I can do a movie, no problem, but for some reason, could not do this. It was bothering me,
Yep.
even though um, it does bother me a bit that anytime they go to a cinematic, it automatically will do the wipe and then go to letterbox.
Yeah.
But I'm over it. I find the graphics to be okay. They're not the best. Um, there are way more games that have done way better graphics on these generations. I'm on the PlayStation 5, you're on the Xbox Series X. It looks like uh, a game that just came out on the PlayStation 5
I think even that's being very
or
considerate.
PlayStation 4 Pro. Like, be
Yeah.
honest, it
It feels like a
yeah,
late stage last gen game
yeah.
in so many ways, and I do wonder if that's the constrictions of the engine, the Snowdrop engine. I also wonder if it's just the constrictions of, "Hey, we're making an open world game with so much scale to it. There's a lot to it." I think that there are gorgeous areas to this game, but when you look at a specific thing like Kay Vess's hair does not look good.
It looks terrible,
The lip syncing in many scenes, not great,
especially at
a
the beginning.
and especially at the beginning, and I struggled to even be able to say this looks like a current gen game. I think out of anything, it's just the scale of it all, just knowing that there's so much in this world, so much that they're rendering that could only be done on these consoles. That's the only thing that in my head is saying it's a PlayStation 5, it's a current gen Xbox game. Outside of that, I don't think it really looks like one.
I think my issue is we've played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order,
Yep,
and we've seen what the world can look like better. Even though Jedi Fallen Order has its issues when you're in cities and stuff, or you're in temples or whatever, when
yep,
you're going under to do missions, it looks great. But we've also seen games, but maybe you're right on the Snowdrop engine because it does look a lot like the Division.
it does. Yep,
Because what frustrated me, because Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is a Ubisoft game,
mhm,
we were gushing over how beautiful
yeah,
everything looked in that game. And then I play this and I'm like, did we go backwards? Like, it has me worried about shadows. It actually has me worried because Ubisoft usually makes their games look beautiful.
mhm.
But this looks a lot like when we played Avatar, where I was like not as impressed with the world that I was in graphically. They are, but to contract from the graphics, the story is so good that I told you before, I'm over it. This
Same.
is not a game of the year, but it's a very good Star Wars game.
Yep.
So I'm the graphics I'm just over. And interesting enough, when we go into space, the graphics are phenomenal,
Amazing, right?
which is it's weird. Like they look amazing.
Yep. There's when you're going to Kijimi and you're going through like the clouded sections in
Yeah.
space and you see like the lightning and the storms. I was like, this is so gorgeous. And then you end up on Tatooine, and I know you haven't gone there yet. The open world section of just going through the sand, I was like, this looks like, and I'm trying to be as nice as possible. This looks like something out of the PS3 generation.
Assassin's Creed 3. I
No,
mean,
I'm saying
I'm Uncharted 3, sorry.
Something like that where it might be the light, like how it, hits the sand, the desolate sand. There's not much for it to kind of reflect and play off of, but it just looks barren. It looks like an open world game that I played on the Xbox 360, and it's varying, it's contrasting, but I think there are beautiful moments, there are beautiful tapestries in this game, but overall, it just isn't the best looking game I played this generation, and I'm again, like you, I'm okay with it. I've gotten over it. It's just I can't ignore it
No,
when it comes up in conversation. I cannot say this looks like a current gen game, but it top marks for everything else it's doing in terms of it being a great Star Wars game.
I think it goes back to your point of saying this is a great building blocks
Mhm.
for another game.
Yeah.
Like Assassin's Creed 1, and then we got Assassin's Creed 2, and we're like, "Oh my god, this is what it's supposed to be like."
Yep.
My hope is Toronto gets greenlit to make a second one, and they start working on it, and we don't see it for 5 years.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's my
Or
hope.
yeah. I mean, Ubisoft Toronto's gotta make Splinter Cell, so
Yeah, but they better
they
do that correctly.
oh, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I know that. But no, I do want to go back to quickly just to the Star Wars of it all, because while graphically it's not that impressive, but all the minute details of like locations feeling like they should be in Star Wars, sounding like Star Wars. The music in this game is absolutely incredible,
Phenomenal.
like some of the
The
best.
sound design, if the Game Awards doesn't nominate this, I'd be pissed
Same.
because I think the sound design on this is some of the best I've ever heard in a video game. Like
I
they
agree.
do a phenomenal job, the
Yep.
sound design in this game.
Whether it's the
And
sounds
not
of,
because we've met the people that do the sound design for Ubisoft, still, it's amazing.
it absolutely is. The blaster, the when you, uh, overheat your blaster and you have to, like, quote, unquote, "reload it," just the sounds of that, the sounds of you're blasting out, like, you're jumping into hyperspace, and, just the music itself as it's swelling
That
as you're landing on a
siren
planet. The
as it
siren, yep.
as you getting farther and closer to it, like, wow. And or when you have the Imperial wanting to kill you and there's a death march against you, that music that plays, it's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think for everything it respects the franchise, it
Mhm.
respects the IP, and I think you can clearly tell that this was a game created by people who know Star Wars and like Star Wars.
I wonder I haven't heard it yet, but I wasn't listening for it, and now I wonder if the Wilhelm cry is in there, so I'm gonna have to, like I haven't heard it yet, but it's gotta be,
I
right?
haven't
And I
heard
haven't
it
seen a
either.
stormtrooper hit his head, and I've been trying to pay attention.
That's so true. I've been hitting the stormtroopers in the head, though. I've been knocking them out
Yes,
quite
and they make
often.
cool noises, so you can actually I'll give it to them as well. When a stormtrooper walks, you hear the clickety clack like you do
Mm,
from the movies. It's well
yeah.
done.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's good in terms of its deliverance of being a Star Wars property, and I think that's something that I can say way more than, like, the Jedi series, the
Yep,
Jedi's Fallen Survivor, or wait,
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order and Survivor, thank you.
Yes.
I got there, but, yeah, I appreciate those games and everything, but this one feels so genuine and authentically
Yeah, they took a little
in
bit
its
of the
place.
Alan Wake with the words popping up, how,
That too. Oh, yeah.
well
When
done.
the
And
wanted.
yes, and when it comes up, it makes that noise, and you're like,
Mm,
"Dang!"
yeah.
They do it's very impactful. So they've done there's building blocks to having an amazing game here. We just
Mhm.
gotta get there.
Yep, absolutely. Court, anything else we missed as we start wrapping up this conversation?
No, I think about it, I think but as I mentioned, my biggest thought on this game is if you're a Star Wars fan, you're going to love this.
Yep.
Like, this is definitely a Star Wars game. They did a phenomenal job, and it's not like the Star Wars where, you know, you're on the internet saying how terrible they're doing to this. They give you new characters, integrate them with existing characters, and I also think they played it safe, but in a good way, going back to an era where we don't complain as much when they hit
That's
that
so
era.
true. Yeah.
So, and I think Nyx is, if he doesn't show up in the next Mandalorian somehow, I'm gonna be pissed because they did a great job of adding characters from the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order series without us just putting little nuances of putting them in there. I want to see Nyx just go across the screen because he is now one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
Easily, and I definitely agree. For me, yeah, it all goes back to I think this is a just a good game worthy of a playthrough, but
Yep.
it's a great Star Wars game that if you're a huge fan of Star Wars, whether it's just the original trilogy or just the expanded universe and stuff, there's a lot to like here. I don't kudos to Ubisoft so far anyways. Again, I haven't reached credits, but so far for being restrained in not being like, and here's C3PO and he comes out and he does the thing and then he leaves. Like they feel very restrained with the characters they use, the locations they use, and how they use them all. It feels very fitting of, yep, this is happening right in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. It's that 1 year period, very limited. Let's tell a story here. Let's give homages and explore places that we've seen before in the sequels, recontextualize them here, and stuff that we've seen in the previous entries as well. And I think it so far it's paying off in a good way. I just think that there are limitations, and they took it a little easy in terms of its graphical prowess and some of the systems as well. But overall, I'm enjoying it, and I think the game is way more impactful to me than it was ever when I was doing the demos. And I think I was completely wrong. I am willing to accept that. But yeah, my perspective on the game now, playing in full context, I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
fun, and we
exactly.
very rarely can say that about games nowadays. Some of them frustrating. This game's fun. Just go out,
It
have some fun,
it's
and live
very
in the
fun.
Star Wars world.
And it's just not the same like Ubisoft checklist. All right, here we go. I'm clearing out this compound. I'm going up this tower, opening up the fog of war of the map. It feels like a fresh take on the Ubisoft format.
Yep.
That obviously it's a Ubisoft game through and through, but it's not a Ubisoft game, if that
It's not
makes
an
sense.
Assassin's Creed Star Wars game. It's not.
Nope. Nope.
It's almost like they took all the good pieces from all of them and put it into one game to see what happens.
And after playing Avatar, playing, so many Far Cries and like even Assassin's Creed Mirage while it was condensed and stuff like that, I am so happy I'm just not doing that again. It feels way more impactful, and the story's hitting right now. And yeah, I'm not having a genuine amount of fun right now. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. As we wrap up, I do want to remind you all we're giving away 5 pairs of tickets to the CNE in Toronto alongside an MSI Prestige 16 laptop Evo Edition with an Intel Core Ultra and an Intel Core i9-14900K CPU. Head on over to @ConsoleCreatures on X and Instagram for more details on how you can win. Court, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. From one Star Wars fan to another, it's been a blast. And where can people keep up with you online?
You can find me at Court Lalonde on all social media platforms, and you can find me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Console Creatures, YouTube, and you can check us out on the podcast for PlayStation Generation. And you can find me Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern on Three Dads and a Console.
Amazing. And for me, you can find me across the internet at @svigvari. I'll be posting more thoughts and everything on Star Wars Outlaws as I continue playing through this game. Looking forward to it. And obviously, yeah, thank you to Ubisoft for the chance to play this game, review it. And until next time, we'll see you. Bye.